Welcome, Sega fans, to the podcast 4 decades in the making. Do yourselves a favour and plug yourselves into the Sega Guys podcast with me, Dan the Mega Driver, and the Game Gear to my Sega Mark III, James the SEGAHolic. Mate, how you doing?
Very good, mate. Very good. Yourself?
Yes. It's another early morning recording.
You can tell.
I think on both of us. Navigating the various aspects of our lives to try and get this done, but been looking forward to this one, mate. But how's yourself?
I'm good, mate. Just very tired, as you can see. The challenges of evenings and bedtimes with young children. Want to stay awake, but we get there, mate. We were meant to record on Wednesday as usual, put off, and then we went, we'll go on Friday, couldn't do that, so here we are, Sunday morning, up at 6 a.m. So the dedication of the Sega guys knows no bounds. So
it changes. There's a sweet spot when the kids get I think between 8 and I want to say 12, and then they're fine. But then when they get older, they want more stuff. We're basically a taxi for our eldest now. He's got a part-time job and he finishes at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and that plays havoc with certain recording arrangements as well.
Well, if you're saying that, mate, I've got one that's 7, one that's 15 months, and then a third on the way, early next year. So I'm quite a way away from that sweet spot. So thanks for that, mate. That's just made me feel a lot better.
It'll come. I'm on the opposite end. But, it'll come around soon enough. It goes like a flash, mate. I remember your youngest was a toddler when we first started this. Where's that gone?
I know, mate. I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like the kind of the balancing act, isn't it? It's like you either enjoy your 20s and 30s and have kids later, or else you have your kids in your 20s and 30s and enjoy the more senior years. So. Aye, mate, that's how you end up, like, in your 40s going to, like, the Canaries and not going to, like, Sorrento and Pompeii and, the holidays where you could just walk about and do what you want as a couple. So, that a joyous, mate. Family life's fun, but...
It is, mate. Mind you, they're all enjoying Sonic Racing Crossworlds at the moment.
Well, there you go, mate.
Been playing that pretty much non-stop. They've got the Minecraft Festival on at the moment, so the Minecraft season pass is unlocked.
What is that?
Yeah, and I was playing with all of them. All 3 of mine. I played it. My wife has been playing it with us as well. It's actually because it actually feels like it's got more popular in this house than Transformed was at the same when that first came out. And I'm starting to kind of lean towards the gameplay of it more, especially the online. The online's absolutely fantastic, and playing with the family and stuff. So yeah, I'm thinking of doing a little update for all the DLC and all the events that have been coming out. So
shout, mate, good shout. Aye, it's let's say my oldest, she likes her Minecraft. She's got it on her PS4. Likes building roller coasters and then putting a wee cart in it and taking me, Daddy, look, I made this roller coaster. It's like going way up into the sky. I'm like, it's actually quite impressive, because when she first started on it, it was really, really basic stuff, and like within like a couple of weeks, man, she was building some insane stuff. I'm like, this is quite imaginative. But if there's Minecraft stuff in the Crossworlds update, mate, I'll need to put it on. I'm sure she'll appreciate that.
Yeah, get some split screen going with her. They got the Alex and what's the other one? Steve and the Creeper and the minecart, and you can decorate the minecart with all the decals and everything. It's a good laugh, mate. It's a cracking game.
Well, we'll end up not actually racing. She'll just sit there. As soon as you said you can modify the car, she'll just spend time modifying the car rather than actually racing.
Oh, believe me, we were playing it yesterday. And obviously 4 of us sitting there, and my youngest goes, I just need to modify my car. And we're like, no, we're not getting raced.
We'll be here all day.
What about yourself, mate? You been playing anything?
Just kind of playing about with some Game Gear stuff. Also for this a video I'm working on, which ties in also to the topic of today's show. But I'm kind of working on this Game Gear video, so I've been playing it on also the real hardware and using emulation to capture high quality gameplay for the actual video itself. But 25 games or something I've kind of picked for like the best of Game Gear, and Shinobi 2, mate. Silent Shinobi is far too good.
Yeah.
Like GG Shinobi is good, but like, Shinobi 2 is just like kind of coming off the back of that Art of Vengeance kind of high as well. It's so good. I think visually it's like you can see the similarities to like Revenge of Shinobi. It leans towards that, and again, it's a common theme with Game Gear games, and that video is like these games have no right to be as good as they are. Like Fatal Fury Special. I know it came out in '95, so it's kind of later in the console's life. But again, man, it's just like whenever you look at like Mortal Kombat 2, Primal Rage, like they only have like maybe two or three backgrounds. So like you just alternate between those two or three
Yeah.
backgrounds depending on who you fight. Fatal Fury, each character has their own unique background, day and night cycles. Like there's 9 characters to choose from. A fair number have been cropped, obviously, for size reasons. Was it Big Bear, one of the characters? Like you also can't fit
Yeah.
him on
Yeah.
Game Gear, he's just too big, so he's kicked out. But in the main, it's like all the wee animations, like Terry throwing his hat up when he wins around and stuff like that. It's just there's so many just cracking little things in there that just they've somehow squashed this game onto the Game Gear. So that's what I've been doing, mate. Just kind of, I mean, this thing has been a godsend because like try to actually sit down at the Saturn or something. So like you get a couple of minutes, you just fire it up and play away and something, and off you go. And just good fun reacquainting myself with the Game Gear after all this time.
Yes, mate, and that's obviously the topic of today. Is we've got not one but two anniversaries or two birthdays to celebrate this month. It's exactly 5 years apart. The creation of the Sega Mark III, aka the Sega Master System, and the Sega Game Gear, 40 years and 35 years, respectively. Funny that they do coincide, both being launched in October. Game Gear celebrated its anniversary on October the 6th, and the Master System or the Mark III. God, the date's eluding me now, but I believe it's the 20th. So I've got the video that will have gone out before this podcast airs, which will be on the 20th, and that will be going the day that the Mark III's birthday was celebrated. So kind of funny that they both have the same birthday month and are just exactly 5 years apart.
I know, and the fact that they're both, pretty much the same system, give or take a few changes on the Game Gear. So, again, Sega, the first to bring the full console experience on the go. You
Yeah,
know, that's what the Game Gear was. It wasn't anything stripped down. It was at that time they were okay. It was obviously a previous generation. The Mega Drive was kind of out at that point. Whenever it was here, especially in the UK, and it would kind of live on just kind of into kind of Saturn's life for a wee bit. But to bring a full console experience into the hand, it laid the foundations for the kind of modern day handheld, whether it be I know the Lynx was kind of there first, the first Atari Lynx in terms of that kind of longer, you know, kind of horizontal form factor. But I think the Game Gear laid the foundations for like PlayStation Portable, even like the Switch, Steam Deck. It laid those kind of foundations for taking a full console experience with you, PlayStation Portable, stuff like that.
yeah, it absolutely did. And what's amazing is that when the Mark III debuted 5 years before, it was the most powerful dedicated games console by a significant margin.
Mm-hmm.
To make that portable, it's pretty crazy. Now I know the PC Engine did it around the same time. You had the PC Engine, and then you had the uh, God, what is the handheld called? It's the Turbo something. It's gonna really bug me now. I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna. God, it's gonna drive me mad. But yeah, the Game Gear basically was the Switch before the Switch, wasn't it? Because you had the you not only had the Master System internals, you could actually play Master System games on your Game Gear. You could play them in the
Hmm.
home, and um, you could play them on the Game Gear on the move. So, I mean, in terms of the history of the Master System, obviously I cover a lot of this off in the video that would have gone live on the 20th. Turbo Express, that's what it's called. I had to find out what it was called. It was driving me mental. The
I
Turbo
know.
Express.
I could see like one eye in the camera, another eye in the keyboard. There, like, I must find out
was
what
like,
this is
I was
called.
like, you bastard! I know it's on the tip of my tongue. Right, the Turbo Express. Right now, on the Turbo Express, just to revisit this point, came out on December the 1st, so 2 months after the Sega Game Gear. So, all of you guys, the Game Gear was the very first, bringing the console experience to the handheld, beating out the Turbo Express by 2 months. Thank you very much.
Yeah, mate, that 2 months will take it. It counts. That'll do.
Uh,
It's like Tomb Raider's exclusivity on Saturn. It was like 2.5 weeks, but we'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the Game Gear was significantly cheaper than the PC Engine Turbo Express. So mainly because the PC Engine was 1988, I believe. Obviously, pretty much a 16-bit console. But the Game Gear's achievement shouldn't be understated because obviously going back to the history of the Master System, that came from originally the SG-1000 competing with the Famicom in Japan, both launching the same day. Basically, Sega saw the ColecoVision in America, thought, oh, that's the most powerful console. Didn't sell very well because of the North American crash, but if we stick that in our box, we should have a success. Little did they know that Nintendo basically had a very similar idea, all the way down to having a keyboard with it. Only thought, right, well, that's the most powerful console in the world at the moment. But what if we made it even more powerful, and then put that side to side with the SG-1000? Both consoles were a success, but NES nuked the SG-1000 out of existence, obviously. um, which forced Sega to do the Mark II, and then ultimately what they call the Mark III, what we call the Master System, was a significant step up using an NEC chip based on the Zilog Z80 processor, massive improvement in graphics capability, about 6 times the RAM of the NES, which you imagine a console coming out now with 6 times the RAM of like the PS5 Pro or something like
About 2 grand or something it would probably cost. It's like,
that. Yeah. Yeah, so by a significant margin, the Master System in 1985, or the Sega Mark III rather, was the most powerful dedicated games console all the way up until 1988 when the PC Engine came out. So yeah, it's it's interesting that both Sega and Nintendo both launched their consoles on exactly the same day. That rivalry began all the way back in 1983. And there's always kind of an irony in that, isn't there?
so that mate, the rivalry was born. It's even from the start they couldn't stop just trying to compete with each other. It's quite wonder was there some kind of inside info leaked or something? There must have been something that can't be coincidence. You know what I mean? I mean, we heard about you know Sega basically letting Sony see the schematics for Saturn because it was like, that's our friends down the road. Come see what we're working on. We wonder if there's something similar going on there because to launch the same day is just madness. But our rivalry was born, mate. And it is with the Master System. The thing is, it's whenever you hear the name, like you automatically think of the European and the Brazilian market. You know what I mean? It's like you always hear like a lot of like American like kind of YouTubers and even like kind of retro gamers that are kind of going back retrospectively because there was no real massive awareness of it, in the States. I mean, it was obviously there, but it just didn't kind of factor in because Nintendo were so just so prevalent, in the kind of psyche. It's just like it was like the video games over there. It was like the way it's kind of over here a wee bit, or put the PlayStation on.
Yeah,
It's just a kind of a collective term for gaming. We're going to go play some Nintendo. It was
yeah,
just a kind of all encompassing term. But now the Master System just again, whenever I was doing the video I did, like getting my first Master System, in the modern day, and I'm looking at it and going, Like I know I get robbed of getting that Mega Drive, right? And obviously, kind of, I was bought the Atari ST because of the whole cheaper games and all that kind of thing. But I'm like, see if you got me a Master System, I'd have been I'd been happy with that upgrade. Going for a Spectrum a Master System would have been absolutely massive. So, but nah, missed
Yeah,
opportunities, mate. Sliding doors moments, honestly.
it is, mate. But I think that's a point worth discussing because when I got our Master System, we got it in 1990, no, 1991 because Sonic had just come out. And at the time, I'd had the Commodore was the Commodore 64 was the only thing that I had in the house at the time, and I loved that thing. And I had a big basket of games. I had loads of them. You know, most of them were Memorex C90 tapes that my dad brought home in a carrier bag from the pub, all copied games. Like about half of them were actually loaded. But yeah, I loved my Commodore 64, and then my brother got the Master System, and I was absolutely blown away. I mean, I was, if you want to trace my Sega guy's history back, that's where it all began. You know, I'd played Outrun on the Commodore 64, and I loved that, and I'd played Afterburner in the arcades, and that was just that was just a surreal experience. You imagine playing that as a 7-year-old kid or 6-year-old kid in that massive cockpit being thrown about and everything. But that's where the Sega love began with that Master System, my brother's Master System entering the house. So that was me going from the Commodore 64, mate. I mean, if you'd have got a Master System 1987, before the Mega Drive even arrived on these shores, the Mega Drive wouldn't come till a couple of years later. But if you'd got a Master System in 1987, 1988, I mean, it would have been a substantial step up.
I'd have been like getting the 360 in an HD telly in 2005, man. That would have been, that would just have been seismic, I'd have like, look at all these colours. Like, there's more than three. It's like, the games load instantly. You don't have to wait
Oh,
15 minutes or whatever it was, 10, 15 minutes for the game to load. Oh, I mean, didn't even need to go as far up as the Mega Drive. You could just have got me a Master System. I'd have been quite happy with that. That's the thing. It's whenever you go back and play it, obviously I got that Master System. Tom Thumb, who else? Sold me a brilliant condition one for the grand total of 20 quid. You know what I mean? And it's just even the system itself. It's a beautiful, beautiful machine. It's kind of stood the test of time in terms of hardware design. I think it's got that kind of classic, 80s technology look with the sharp edges, the red and the black. It's just timeless in its design. But whenever I also got the EverDrive for it and firing through games, and it's like the appreciation for what that system was doing at that time. If you kind of and that's what we try and do here is kind of put ourselves in the footsteps of gamers at that time, rather than looking back with kind of like the bias of years gone by and taking into account the era that came out, what it was doing. Just ridiculous, absolutely phenomenal. So many great games on it.
yeah, it's insane. Some of the games that when I was putting some footage together for other videos, some of the games they're just stunning for an 8-bit machine. They really are. You know, some of them look like PC Engine kind of 16-bit games in terms of visuals, like Alex Kidd and Shinobi World, Masters of Combat with its huge sprites. You know, we were talking earlier about kind of the Fatal Fury games because they're fantastic as well. I think the Mortal Kombat kind of Primal Rage games, I think they make the sprites too big because they make the sprites tiles. So they have to put a lot more. They cost a lot more from a memory perspective. So the trade-off for that is that you end up with essentially what are you end up with like two backgrounds because there's no memory left for anything else. But because it was Probe that did the Mortal Kombat port,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
I mean, Mortal Kombat 2 is one that I feature on the Game Gear video, and I've no idea if that's been out by the time this airs or whether it'll be coming out shortly after it. I don't know what the kind of release schedule is going to look like. But Mortal Kombat 2, I think it's still a step up for the first game. Like the character models are giant, but again, they're reasonably well animated. There's only the two backgrounds that they kind of alternate between. But at the same time, they're a lot more detailed. than the backgrounds in the first game. So they've kind of taken it up a step as well. So Mortal Kombat 2 on Game Gear is one I remember having it back in the day and was really, really, really fond of it. Played a ton of it. Also having Mortal Kombat 1 and 2 on the Amiga, which were decent,
Mm.
ports as well, but I the 8-bit versions. In the main, the first game is passable, but I think the second game ramps it up quite significantly in terms of the more detailed backgrounds. I think the characters are a little bit better looking as well.
Yeah, I think no. I think in terms of obviously the third one was Brazil only on the Master System. I think out of the three, I think Mortal Kombat 2 hits the sweet spot where
Aye, three's bad, man.
yeah,
I played three on the Game Gear, man. There is no backgrounds. It's just darkness. It's like it was just a step too far.
yeah,
Admirable that they tried it, but a step too far.
yeah. Well, obviously we didn't get Mortal Kombat 3 on the Master System over here. I don't think they got any Mortal Kombat games over in the US on the Master System where basically it wouldn't have been because Sonic the Hedgehog was the last game to be released in the US, which was basically just the European release, but with a
A sticker.
NTSC barcode stuck on there. Um,
Aye.
but yeah, so they wouldn't have got things like any of the Mortal Kombat games. You look at all the games that we got over here. They got Alex Kidd and Shinobi World, but they didn't get stuff like Wonder Boy and Monster World and all that. It's amazing that Japan basically axed the console as early as 1988. So it was basically dead as soon as the Mega Drive was out the door. They was like, right, we've been trying this for for 3 years now. We had the Mark III that didn't sell. We rebranded it and repackaged it as the Master System. Still, no one knew what. No one bought it. So sod it. That's dead to us. Focus on the Mega Drive. So they didn't make any Master System games from 1988. The US stopped publishing games from it from 91 because that wasn't selling. It's quite astonishing, really, when you think of the fact that I think there's 2 million Master System consoles sold in the US compared to like 40 million NESs, which is like a 95% market share, which is
Oh,
absolutely outrageous. When
aye.
you look at those numbers, you kind of have to admire you know um, what Sega America did to kind of Tom and Al coming in to break that basically a monopoly.
Aye. It was a monopoly. That's the thing. I know kind of Tom and Al get a bit of kind of stick for like certain sections of the community for like maybe stories or they believe they're embellishing what they've been told. But it's never you see how bare bones Sega of America was whenever they came in. Like they had no right to to end up beating Nintendo. And I think that's why as well there's maybe a wee bit of kind of chip on the shoulder as well because they pretty much did in the US for Sega what Sega of Japan couldn't. It's basically even the Mega Drive in Japan, like nobody seemed to want it. It's like the Saturn was just that sweet spot for Japan and Sega. Like everything else, Master System, Mega Drive, even Dreamcast, by and large, were just completely shunned. But aye, Tom and Alman, they turned Genesis as much as I absolutely cannot stand that name, but they turned the Genesis into an absolute monster over there, and they did it by completely zeroing in on like American culture. Like sports games were just massive. Celebrity tie-ins like Joe Montana, John Madden, Michael Jackson, they just hit a complete sweet spot. So you've got to say fair play to them for the job they did there.
Absolutely. I mean, they did try to bring the Master System back in 1990 with the Master System 2, but you know, Genesis was a hit, but bringing them the Master System as an entry level Sega console just wasn't catching on, even though it was doing well in Europe at the time. But the arrival of Tom and Al ties in with the Game Gear, though, doesn't it? Because it was obviously, as famously, the Game Gear that was the first console that Mr. Kalinske had in his hand when he was brought on board.
Aye, if you believe like Tom's incredible story that he was basically sitting on a beach in Hawaii on vacation or holiday, as we like to call it, vacation, very American term. But he's on his holidays with his family, and Hayao Nakayama appears and whips them off to Japan and shows them, Mega Drive and Game Gear. And I just, that the journey began there.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Um, it all began there, and it was, there was the talk that Al gave us about, that Sega were in talks to possibly take over the links and publish
That's
that
right,
in
aye.
America. I don't know how joined up that would have been, whether that was just a Sega America discussion, and obviously the Game Gear would have probably been in development already at the time.
Mm,
Whether it was, should we go with what we got, or should we take the links? But ultimately, it was the Game Gear that they went all in on. The Game Gear is an interesting one as well, mate, because yes, it's basically a Sega Mark III, Sega Master System in terms of memory, in terms of CPU, etc. But the graphics chips actually a significant improvement to the point where it can actually display more colors on screen than the Mega Drive, and I think you can
hmm
probably see that in a lot of games.
Yeah, aye. That's something I mentioned as well, because I think the one that it really stands out for me was Space Harrier. When I was playing that, like Space Harrier on Game Gear is so colourful. Like the different shades that you can get, like from every colour, reds, greens, blues, you can see the different shades on there. But it doesn't. It's probably a case of because the screen was smaller. I think they must have known that if you want to kind of make those graphics pop on a much smaller screen, you have to show more colours to give it that extra depth. But the jump up in colours is madness. Is it like 64 colours in the palette, and it's 32 colours at once on screen
Yeah,
for Master System? Game Gear has a palette of 4,096 colours.
yeah, that's it.
you
Yeah,
know, um, and it's up to 32 colours at once, just like Master System, but it's got a better palette to choose from, so it can kind of show greater kind of depths of colour. So, but it's just such a great little system, honestly. And the thing is quite funny as well, like also the Nomad, we talk about how Game Gear was like the first kind of console to take that full, home console experience on the go. And then you obviously get the Nomad coming later on, which Mr. Kalinske was wanting to try and market it. Let's market it for Father's Day,
yeah,
but it's like that enigma, like never really hit any kind of mainstream market. We never even got it over here. Like I remember I seen one once, mate, in the window of Game Station traded in, like God knows, like 20 odd year ago in
oh,
Game Station. And I can't remember how much it was. I'm not going to make up a price to make a point. And I can't remember how much they wanted for it. But it was just sitting there on top of his box, just in the kind of pre-owned section,
mm,
just at the right hand side of the door, down in the corner. I was like, that's a Sega Nomad. Never seen one before, but it's just kind of weird that there is this more powerful, upgraded console version of like from Game Gear, but the handheld that everyone remembers Sega for is the Game Gear. Like nobody kind of really talks about the Nomad.
yeah.
But no, just think it's a beautiful wee machine. It really is.
Well,
Just
that's the thing, because the Nomad, I think, for it being a portable Mega Drive and all, as amazing as that is, I don't think it's a good looking console at all.
no, it. From what I've looked, it looks like it must be an absolute nightmare to hold.
Yeah,
Like I can't see it being comfortable because it's got this weird kind of angled design on it as well, and it's like really chunky. I know there's no kind of much in terms of ergonomics like on the back of the Game Gear, but there's enough with those kind of battery compartments to give you something to kind of grip onto properly. It sits nice in the kind of the pads of your thumbs as well.
yeah,
It does fit nice, but the Nomad just looks like it's an absolute like hand killer.
yeah. The D-pad looks off, and it's got the kind of the
Oh,
oval the oval buttons on it. It's got six of them. It's got they're the wrong shape. It's just like, why have you made it like this?
like
Yeah,
the Saturn's Western controller. What are you doing?
yeah. It does. It kind of does smack of that. It does feel like it does look like it was designed with those sensibilities rather than one that's something. It looks like an
Yeah.
American made one rather than a Japan made one. Unfortunately, no offense to American viewers, but yeah, the revision of the Saturn pad kind of, I kind of get that vibe from the Nomad. You're right, mate.
When you
But
said
yeah,
American made there, mate, I just heard Hulk Hogan's WCW theme in my head. He's American made. Oh man.
Oh, but the Game Gear was to a success, and something that does annoy me quite a lot is well, the success of both of these consoles is severely underplayed. I've got a script that I've written around Sega sales figures in general, because pretty much all Sega consoles suffer from this, except ironically for the Dreamcast. Is that all of their sales figures are kind of understated, or their performance is kind of dumbed down. No, we're not going to sit here and we're not going to say, oh, the Master System outsold the NES and the Game Gear outsold the Game Boy. We know worldwide they got absolutely crushed, but the Game Gear was fairly successful. You know, it sold 10.6 million units, was the most successful non-Nintendo handheld all the way up into the PSP in 2005, some 15 years later. You know, outselling the Atari Lynx, the Wonder Swan, what were the other, the Neo Geo Pocket, everything that came and challenged Nintendo. But I was reading something. I think it's the Wikipedia entry, and it's just, you read something like, oh, it's like the Game Gear was a Game Gear failed to challenge the Game Boy, which sold 10 times the amount of the Game Gear. I was like, what? But it didn't, though, did it? It didn't sell 10 times the amount of the Game Gear, because the Game Boy sales figures include Game Boy Pocket and Game Boy Color. And right, you can argue Game Boy Pocket, fine, but Game Boy Color accounted for like something like 50 million consoles. It's not the same console. You can buy games that are exclusive to the Game Boy Color. It's a completely, it's backwards compatible. But Jesus, it's like it's like classing the Xbox Series S and the Xbox One X as the same console. They're not. You know.
Aye, that's the joy of Wikipedia, isn't it, mate? Anybody can just update it and put any old shite they want on it, which is why you're not meant to use it as a source to
No.
cite anything, because it's full of shit. It's it's basically like if you ask any AI thing, whether it be Gemini or ChatGTP or Grok, that's where it's pulling a lot of its information
Yeah.
from, is places like Wikipedia. So never trust what's
No.
on there. It's you need to do a lot of research for stuff. Aye, people just put what they want on there. Do not ever use Wikipedia or ChatGTP as your source for any video game information, because they feed each other shit.
Yeah, yeah, always dig around and validate your source. Because if you dig around, you can see that, yeah, the Game Gear was outsold by the Game Boy, but the Game Boy was sold for 3 years longer. It well, it sold for a year before and then 3 years after, so it's got an extended time of life. You take out the Game Boy Color games, and it's something like 60 million to 10 million, which is still, a massive gap. Not going to deny that, but let's not underplay the fact that the Game Gear was a success to a degree, worldwide. Still well thought of. It was thought of well enough in Japan for them to honor it with the Game Gear Micro, which,
Mm.
is a nice novelty idea, but a little bit disappointing for us not to get a proper a proper game. If they did something that was like Game Boy Advance size for a Game Gear and put 30 games in there, that would have been perfect. But I think
Mhm.
we would have both got one, wouldn't we?
Oh, why? Well, they didn't do that, which is why Ender was getting a modded one. So, to go all Thanos, fine, I'll do it myself. You know, but the Game Gear, I think, is back to that line that Mel had. We were talking to him in a previous show. It was like, it felt like with Dreamcast, it could have at least earned its place. It wasn't going to be a winner, but it felt like it was going to at least earn its place and do enough sales to justify where it sat. I think
Mm.
Game Gear very much does that. It earned its place. Again, looking at where handheld gaming was at that time, like it was niche. It was. I still remember the excitement of getting into Tandy and seeing like the three sided stand that had the Game Gear, the Lynx 2, and the Game Boy all set up. And Game Boy just looked like a cheap, nasty toy compared to both the Lynx and the Game Gear. It was like, if you at a glance looking at it, you couldn't understand why. Like, what was the appeal of that? It just looked like, I mean, I had loads of friends in school that had Game Boys, bloody Tetris. The RoboCop port on Game Boy is phenomenal, right enough. It's a brilliant version, but um, it just had no right to be sitting beside these two absolute monsters, these full color monsters. It looked like high end bits of kit, and then there's this little white thing with a green screen. You're like, why? But and that's the thing, and people automatically go to battery life, right? And I'm going to get my soapbox here, right? Because see, battery life, it's like the jibe that the Game Gear gets hit with. It's a go-to point when somebody mentions Game Gear. It used to guzzle batteries. You get 5 minutes out of six batteries, and whenever you look at what battery life you get out of a Switch on full charge or a Steam Deck on full charge, even a PSP back in the day in full charge, right? Away from a charger, you weren't getting astronomical battery life. You look at even a Switch Lite, you don't get like 10, 12, 15 hours of gameplay. Switch, you're going to get between what 3 and 7, depending on brightness, volume, the game you're playing, how demanding it is, whether you're online, all these various factors that come into play. So to scale back, if you look at what Game Gear was doing technologically at that point, a full color screen, backlit, well, let's get that B light bar behind it shining through. But what it was doing in comparison to what the battery technology was like using six AA batteries, then you kind of come forward to today, lithium ion batteries, rechargeable up and down through the mains, but you're still getting a comparable level of battery life. It's not as if like these machines in the modern day, and people go, oh, well, they're using HD displays or higher resolution displays, OLED displays, whatever. But again, scale it back. Look at what the technology was doing back then with the battery technology it had. It's comparable, but yet
Yeah.
they have this ridiculous thing where they go, "Well, Game Gear, great machine, but shit battery life." Well, the Switches get shit battery life, the Steam Decks get shit battery life because,
The ROG LIX, I was just looking it up, has 3 hours.
mate,
The
there you
new,
go.
new Xbox console that costs 1,000 quid has 3 hours of
Three
battery life.
3 hours, mate. That's like I don't know how many. That's cut scenes and tutorials before you even get to play a game. So, you know, it does bug me, like the whole Game Gear, but it's unfair that that's the kind of meme that it's become. It's a go-to point. Its battery life was comparable to what today's systems are. You look at the technology back then, look at the technology now, battery technology comparable. It's the same thing. I mean, saying that, I've had the same six double A's in that since that screen does not chew power at all, man. It's ridiculous. I think I've played this for about 8 hours, and I'm waiting that light starting to flash, and it's not done it yet. And these aren't cutting edge batteries, people. These are from Tesco. So
But yeah, mate, it's I'm in 100% agreement with you. The battery life argument is completely overblown. It doesn't take into account the fact that it was effectively cutting edge handheld technology. The portable screens had a lot of power draw. I am a self-admitted big fan of the Game Boy. I love the Game Boy. I can't deny it, even though this is a Sega show. I love the Game Boy. It's the first Nintendo console I bought was a Game Boy Pocket in 1997. A little yellow one with Wario Land 2. And yeah, I love that little thing. I got a Game Boy Color a little bit later. I think I got it a year later actually. But what people do I got to understand is that the Game Boy is not kind of mimicking a dedicated console to an extent. The Game Boy was an evolution of Nintendo's Game and Watch. That's the reason why it is the way it is. It's Game and Watch games were basically pretty much your LCD games, like your Tiger ones from back in the day. And this was an evolution of that. Now it did mimic kind of the console experience with the games, and the games on the Game Boy are phenomenal. And I think that was the main draw. Mario's great on it. R-Type has an absolutely phenomenal port on there. I think out of everything, it was R-Type that really drew me in. I was like, wow, this is handheld. But saying all that. It was an evolution of the Nintendo Game and Watch. It was black and white. The games were meant to be a little lot more simplified. Whereas the Game Gear was a full color screen with, Master System inwards. It was a Master System with more color. From the off, that was it. That was its DNA. So you put them side by side, and one is clearly a huge step above the other. And that's the thing. That's the reason why the Game Boy requires so little battery life because it doesn't have a backlit screen by default. It's got it's monochrome, um, and the technology is massively simplified. Whereas, if you think if you're using the Master System, you've got to plug in a telly and you've got to plug in the console. You're drawing on 250 volts, and obviously it's regulating that, and you've got your big power converter to turn that into 1 amp and whatever you need to power your Master System. But it's still a lot of power draw, and to get that into a form factor where you can actually play Master System games that are they were cutting edge 5 years ago, is phenomenal. So yeah, mate, it's the two things I think complement each other. They give a lot, like I've said before, I'm a big Super Nintendo fan as well. I love that console, and I think it's a lot like you can love both. There's space for both consoles on there. Um, they both do very different things, but the Game Gear was very unique, and I think it's one of these things where it kind of gets laughed at for the battery life. People don't appreciate what it actually brought to the table because it was a quantum leap. And look at that. So James is showing GG Shinobi. That's the second one, isn't it?
Yep, the Silent
Yeah,
Shinobi. But
it's an absolutely gorgeous looking game.
it's ridiculous, man. So good. I'll not play it while you're talking. That's just rude. But just want to load it up and just show how gorgeous it looks, especially in that screen mode as well. But oh man, just you're right, mate. It's like that's interesting that point you made about the Game and Watch. I never thought it'd been the kind of evolution of that. But you're right about R-Type. R-Type in the Game Boy is superb. R-Type, man, it's just another game from it's just got this allure from back then, isn't it? It's just man. Master System version of R-Type is phenomenal as well, though. Absolutely incredible version on
Yeah.
the Master System.
Yeah, I didn't pick it up until this year. Yeah, it was this year, but it's an absolutely outstanding port of the game. Does stand up to kind of the PC Engine port, which is also a very good port. But yeah, there's something about R-Type on the Master System that's absolutely astounding, and I think it's arcade games where the Master System really kind of blew my socks off. One of the first things that blew me away was Space Harrier, which is quite of interesting when you contrast the Master System and Game Gear ones, because I think the Game Gear one is almost like an original game because the enemy placements are different, the enemies themselves are they're different.
Yep.
So even though, and I think it's only got 12 stages as opposed to 18 on the Game Gear. So it's quite a different experience, but the Master System one it's very faithful to the arcade. And even though it's massively simplified, you don't have all the detail in the trees and the bushes that are coming towards you. The scaling is obviously a lot more. You can notice the sprite changes as they come in closer to you. You got the smiley face on the back of the rocket rather than the actual kind of the booster that's coming out the back of it. But all that aside, it's an absolutely outstanding looking game. Right down to the huge tiles that come towards you. You've got the dragon bosses that look absolutely astounding on there. And then you look at things like, and I think it's something that we're going to probably be saying a lot on this video when we talk about specific games, mate. And you said it already, and I'm sure you're going to say it in your Game Gear video, but Afterburner on the Master System has no right looking as good as it does. The big detailed F16 or F14. I can't remember which it is now. Same with Space Harrier. And some of the games just look absolutely outstanding in terms of.
Well, there's Master. That's Game Gear Space Harrier.
That's right, yeah. So that's Game Gear Space Harrier, and the asteroids are completely different sprites as well, or different
Yeah.
tiles. Um, so, and obviously it's that on the Master System. I don't when you pause it, you don't get the pause notification comes up; it just freezes.
Hi. Thing is, as well though, the dragon bosses on the Game Gear version, like they're just they're quite messy. Whenever it kind of turns and flies away from you, it is quite kind of messy looking. It's not until it kind of comes towards you again and you actually get to see its face, and it even looks different. Like the dragon's face is different on the Game Gear compared to the Master System and arcade version. Um,
Yeah.
it makes the kind of fireballs it throws at you as well. They're a bit kind of, it's a lot of flashing going on, sprite flashing on the bosses. But it makes it a bit of a challenge to dodge the fireballs at times. But no, it's by and large, it plays great, runs at a good pelt as well. So yeah, that's featured quite prominently on the Game Gear video as well.
Yeah. It does play really well. It's interesting that it is so different, and that for all the similarities that you get between the games, between the two pieces of hardware, there's a lot of games that are different. Some of them are just resolution. It's interesting which ones are which because Outrun on the Game Gear is different as well. I
Aye,
think that's more based on Outrun 3D on the Master System,
right.
in terms of layout and stuff. But obviously, it's quite in terms of it's got just got the two lanes on the Game Gear, so it's quite an interesting. You got that interesting dynamic. Like Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is exactly the same game as. Which is obviously the video that's going to be going out before this. Sonic the Hedgehog 1 is a very different game between the two, even though it looks the same. Space Harrier, two different games. The Shinobi games, the two consoles don't share a Shinobi game between them. So yeah, I don't know if Sega were thinking, right, well, if we make different games, then people will have to buy the Master System adapter for the Game Gear to play the other version.
That's that method in the madness, mate. It's like, don't give them everything. We'll sell them this adapter, you know, because like this thing as well. Like R-Type didn't come out in the Game Gear.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
didn't.
There's no Afterburner on Game Gear as well. And there's G-Lock,
Yeah.
but there's no actual Afterburner's port. Doesn't There's nothing on the Game Gear for it. So, aye, don't give them everything. Make them buy the converter, and then they'll buy more Master System games.
G-Lock is a great port as well, though. But I
Aye.
think I think one thing that I did have in my notes to talk about, I've got very, very little notes on this one. But one thing I did think it was worth talking about, mate, and I think we'll both have a bit of fun with this one, is accessories. Because both of these systems had some absolutely fantastic accessories. When we start with the Master System, obviously you had the light phaser, which it's a great gun, really good gun, really clicky. I love clicking it, but my wife, we got where this room is. We got the laundry room just next door, and I was playing Operation Wolf on the Master System. Um,
What a
a
game
little
that
while.
is, man.
That's another absolutely outstanding port. And I was pulling the trigger, and the trigger's so sad because, and all of a sudden the door opens. Like, what the hell are you doing in here? What is that noise?
the,
um,
the, there's one thing I'm just trying to want to look at just now while you're talking, right? I want to see because how similar in design. See, I think they were the same fucking design. I really do. I
what's
think
that?
the Master System's phaser. I think the design is the exact same as the Spectrum light gun
They are very similar. They are very
because
similar.
well, you were playing Operation Wolf, mate. Back in the day, I was playing Bullseye on the Spectrum with a light gun. I was playing darts. It's like so.
Yeah,
That's a Spectrum light gun there.
that's it. So this is right because I haven't actually looked into the light phaser that much, but this is hot off the press. This is stuff I'm reading right now off Radio Sega. In 1989, Virgin Mastertronic released the Magnum light phaser for the three leading 8-bit home computers in Europe: the Amstrad CPC, Commodore 64, and ZX Spectrum. Each were bundled with either cassettes or floppy disks. Um, Virgin Mastertronic's role as the UK's official distributor of Sega products, the Magnum light phaser is unrelated. But so it seems that it was unrelated to it, but I think they probably used elements of that design
Yeah,
in releasing it for those systems.
I forgot it was called the Magnum. That's right. Oh,
Yeah, despite the similar name and aesthetics, it's unrelated to the light phaser. So it looks similar, and because Mastertronic at the time were publishing the Master System, or producing it, which I'll get onto in a bit. But yeah, that's why it looks so similar. Imagine they did that and they tweaked it just enough so that they wouldn't harm their relationship with Sega.
It's got a big Sinclair logo along the side on
Yeah.
it as well.
But yeah, it's a great light gun. You had the paddle controllers, which I haven't used. I don't know how much use that they would be, but they're like the trackballs. Didn't have too many games that used them, to be honest. But I think probably one of the best ones, which I don't own, but I have played, are the 3D glasses. They're, I mean,
How
they're the
good?
com
How good were they?
yeah,
I've never tried them.
they were pretty good. I mean, they weren't like you look at the adverts for it and it's just like coming out in real full 3D, big polygons. I mean, they were all right. They added an. There was going to be no pun intention. I was going to say they add a new dimension to the game, but
Whee! There we go.
I didn't
Well
actually
done.
mean that when it came to my head. But no, it was a novelty. I mean, it was a fun novelty. I mean, they're not worth the whatever they go for today because they go for a lot of money. But stuff like what did I
Of
play? I played
course they do.
Outrun. I played Outrun. I think I played Space Harrier at friends, and this would have been good going on 35 years ago. So apologies, but I remember thinking that they were really cool. Obviously, not compatible with Master System 2, sadly, but yeah, had some cool little accessories with it. I mean, there's a bunch more that came with it. You had uh f- the sound, the FM synth sound module that you could plug in. But they were the main ones. And then obviously for Master System 2, you had kind of a card catcher. So you could use cards on stuff like the SG-1000 and stuff. So yeah, it had a few. Yeah, one of my least favorite ones is the joystick. In fact, give me 2 seconds.
We'll be right back. The Sega guys will return after these messages.
Right. So
Du-du-du-du-du-du.
so this is the Sega control stick, which I always hated. This was our second controller for the Sega Master System, um, and the fire buttons, for anyone that can't see or anyone that's listening, are on the wrong side of the controller. Not to mention that the joystick looks absolutely horrendous. So make sure this cord doesn't fall out. So it's it was just like this was like the ultimate third party controller. It was actually a first party controller. It's just like no one wanted to use this diabolical thing. Don't know why it was actually a thing or who designed it, but it was just it's horrendous. But
It
amusing now
looks
looking back.
like Kit's gear stick. The Knight Rider, isn't it? It's like, yeah, that looks interesting.
It was, mate. Yeah, but yeah, the 3D glasses and the light phaser are definitely the highlights. But the Game Gear, obviously, several brilliant accessories that you had as well.
Oh mate, my Game Gear was kitted out, man. I had the works, man. TV tuner, which obviously the story I've told before about watching the '94 World Cup final on a Game Gear, watching Roberto Baggio blaze his penalty over the bar after being the saviour of Italy, dragging them through the knockout phases, and then getting injured. And was it Nigeria they played before they played? Was it get injured against Nigeria? I think it was, and he kind of just wasn't anywhere near as effective in the final, and then cruelly missed that penalty kick. And I mate was mad watching TV. Like it would look just so janky to people now, but like also you had the cartridge kind of slot, and then on top of it you had the kind of the tuner dial, the kind of line you would find your frequency. You had the big aerial that came out the top of it. It's like to try and get your signal. But
But
again,
that
it
was
was
no
kind of
different to portable TVs of the day, though, was it?
exactly like Sony did their portable TVs, that were massively popular with the people who could afford. Like, and I think that was the thing as well. The Game Gear video I did a while back. is like comparable. If you take a Game Gear with a TV tuner and compare it to what Sony wanted for a Watchman, was it that's what they called it? It was the Sony Watchman, and it was night and day. Like Game Gear was a far cheaper solution, and you got to play games. So again, it's Game Gear laying the foundations for that gaming plus media device, which is what the PSP. Also, it was on disc, it was UMDs, but again, the technology moving through the times, Game Gear was still gaming and multimedia. It was still giving you the option to watch TV. So it was, and the picture was pretty decent one. I mean, it was again, like if you seen it now, it wouldn't look great if you're even able to tune into the thing in it.
I don't
But
think there is
there's
anything,
no,
is there?
nah, that's it. It's all turned off now, mate. It's we're all digital now. But um, it was, I had no complaints in my mind's eye because I'm like, I can still clearly see watching that game of football on the TV tuner. So, aye, there was that. There was the battery pack, which clipped onto your belt. It was a big rechargeable battery cell, and you would charge that up and take it on the go with you in case your batteries ran out on the go. Remember, as I say, getting on the number 62 to go to Clydebank, getting on asking for my £1.20 return. Like, here we go. Got my Game Gear with me. Got my big dildo shaped battery pack clipped onto my belt. Thought it was a ticket, man. But the one that gets me right, I want to show this meme, right? So we've got that meme there, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, it's the
Of
guy with
what
the glasses and the. I can't
with the
remember
big
what that's
eyes.
from. Yeah.
But you know what that reminds me of? The remember the big like kind of screen magnifier you used to get?
Oh yes, yes, of course.
And it was like a big box that went right over the top of it, and it just magnified the screen to make it look bigger. But mate, I'm no kidding. It stuck out about like that much. It was
Yeah,
like it was
good
gigantic.
6 inches or so.
Aye,
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. But I mean, again, accessories, mate, they've got to make money somewhere, aren't they? So by adding all these little kind of wacky add-ons. But I remember that I had a plastic case as well for the Game Gear that kind of held everything. It
yeah.
was like
My
kind
sister
of
had that because it was my
but
sister that got the Game Gear because she had the Gamester accessory pack, and the battery pack at the back was like these that had like handle grips on it.
that's
Um,
right.
and
Aye.
then the screen came over the top with the light, which you didn't need the light because it was the Game Boy that needed the light because you'd have all these screen and magnifiers and light things for the Game Boy, but you didn't need it for the Game Gear. But it had a light and it had a screen that flipped over. It was actually that battery pack that she left in charge while in the back of the Game Gear that basically melted overnight.
Oof,
Um,
Jesus.
but the Game Gear actually lived on. I'm not actually sure what happened to that console because I was still using it. I was seeing a girl in Birmingham at the time, and on the 2 hour train journey, I was playing Game Gear all the way up and back. So it was lasting a good 4 hours. But yeah, I don't know what happened to it after I moved out later on. But yeah, that Gamester accessory pack was something. You see all the memes for the Game Boy ones, don't you? You know, where they've got all the speakers hanging out the sides, and it's like, this isn't even my final form. Um, it was similar with the Game Gear, but and obviously with the Game Gear, you had the Master System converter,
Yes.
which came in
Aye.
two versions, I think, but I'm not sure if there's any actual difference between them. I think it's the Master Converter 2 that I actually have that I have now. Again, great little thing. It's interesting that native Game Gear games obviously operate at a lower resolution, but
Mm.
you know when you play Master System games on that screen, they look fine. And I think with stuff like the EverDrive, you can load Master System and SG-1000 games directly onto the device, can't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Right, let's have a laugh, right? I'm gonna power this up, right? Once I do my 40 power cycles because these AliExpress clones don't like. There we go. Only took three. Roll on next month, mate. I get the real bloody thing. I don't have to sit and do this. Right, hold on a minute. Let's go back.
And this is live and in progress.
Yep, here we go. So, well, let's just go. There's R type. There we go. R type's on here, right? So please bear
Yeah.
with us.
Yes, yeah. As far as I remember, well, whenever I've used it, and I was using one recently because I was playing Streets of Rage on mine, it all looked pretty decent still. Obviously, my Game Gear screen's got a few issues at the moment. The screen probably losing a bit of its vibrancy, given that the I think the caps need replacing on mine again. But yeah, it's despite the lower resolution, it all looked decent, and obviously TV visuals. When you plug in stuff in via the TV tuner, that will look fine as well. See, that looks spot on. That looks like a native Game Gear game. So yeah,
Aye.
they loaded R-Type up on there, and it looks definitely looks the part, mate.
Aye. What I will say is that the brightness doesn't seem quite as it's not as vibrant as the Game Gear games are, which I think is obviously that's what I'm talking about. It's that depth of color. Like
Yeah,
this definitely looks duller than an actual native Game Gear game, but I mean, it's running fine. It's what a game this is, man. This is just too good. I love R-Type.
yeah.
I'm shit at it, but it's fucking rock hard, man. But it's
Yeah.
I'd say looks absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like black magic the way that it works on there. They got these full screen Master System games somehow squeeze you into the Game Gear screen, and in anything, yeah, say you should be playing Master System 2 if Sonic the Hedgehog 2 if you're playing on the Game Gear. Just get the Master System version, play it on the Game Gear screen because the Game Gear version is
Oh,
brutal with how that screen
that
is chopped to
first
accommodate
boss,
resolution.
man, with the fucking cannonballs.
Yeah,
You get the one that bounces off the screen. It's a complete lottery when it's going to come
yeah, I
down.
know,
It's
I know. It's
wee tiny bounces.
ridiculous.
You're like, I can handle them. That's fine. It's like,
Yeah. Well, it's the last one. The one that gets me is Green Hill, Act 3. Not so much the boss, but getting to the boss where you have to bounce on the springs, and because you can't see where the springs are, it makes it impossible. I actually thought, yeah, people that want to see this in real time, check the video, which is due on the 16th. So at the time of recording, I better get that one scheduled. But yeah, I thought that the level designs for both Game Gear and Master System were different, but they weren't. They're absolutely identical. It's the fact that you can't see half the screen that absolutely kills the Game Gear experience. But there you
aye.
go, mate. But yeah, I think well we talked about accessories, mate, and yeah, I mean in terms of the legacies and stuff, Game Gear, as you said, sold 10.5 million units. Master System over 20 million. For some reason, people like to split out the whole tech toy thing, which I don't get. It's like it's like Master System sold 13 million units, and it also sold 8 million. Tech Toy also sold 8 million. It's like it's the same thing. It's the same console. Um, you don't
If you're
split
going
out,
to count Game Boy Color sales and Game Boy, you've got to count Tech Toy sales and the Master System.
right? Right?
And it's just surely you can't pick and choose what sales you count to suit your own argument. For Christ's sake,
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like I was looking through the NES sales earlier because someone posted on X or social media. Did you know that the Wii U outsold every Sega console except for one? I was like, no, that's not true. It didn't outsell the Master System. The Master System sold 20 million consoles, and someone's like, well, yeah, but 8 million of those were Tech Toy. It's like, yeah, a million NESs were sold by Mattel. All of their South Korea sales were by Hyundai, and it was sold as the Convoy. So no, it's the double standards, and those NES sales aren't split out anywhere. So it's double standards, mate. And no one, as I say, no one can argue that the Nintendo consoles outsold the Sega ones. No one can deny that. But we don't have to make up bollocks just to accentuate the point. Don't have to say, all right, yeah, the Game Boy sold 10 times more consoles than the Game Gear, when 50 million of those were consoles that were basically the update, rather than the console itself. You can't exclude 8
That's
million consoles because they were licensed to Tectoy when Tectoy were the official distributor. Otherwise, Otherwise, and I'm really getting on my soapbox here. Otherwise, you discount all 6 million European ones because they were created, published, and licensed by Areola Soft, Mastertronic, and who knows who else. So it's nonsense.
so. That's just got me thinking, mate. We always talk about like the Saturn's sales numbers, and there's this kind of grey area as to how many were actually sold. It can be like people are saying it could be anywhere up to like 15 million. I wonder if people aren't counting the Hitachi and Samsung variants.
Spoiler for a
Of
video I'm doing, they don't. Um, the main
oh,
the main culprit for this is twofold. First of all, Sega reported 8.8 million Sega Saturn sold in 1998. That was Sega of America, which was wrong. And then in Japan, official Dreamcast magazine Japan said 9.2 million, but neither of those the I need to remember what I've written down now because it's in my scripts, but neither of those take into account things like the high Saturns, the V Saturns, or anything like that. They also don't include anything from South Asia. When you look at when you look at the European and American ones, things don't tally up. So they say, for example, Virtua Fighter. They say Virtua Fighter 2 is is the highest selling Sega Saturn game. And it's like with 1.5 million copies sold. And then you realize when you dig into it that 1.5 million was actually the pre-order numbers for the Saturn version in Japan only. So now that figure's been bumped up to 2.2 million. But then my spider sense was tingling them, so I looked into that. That 700 million came from the financial year 2000 1997 results in America. So you still don't have worldwide figures for Virtua Fighter 2. You only have 1.5 million pre-orders in Japan and 700,000 sales up to 1996 in the US, which doesn't include the 3-in-1 pack that they bundled with it for all of 1997. So in which period they sold at least another 500,000 Sega Saturns, all bundled with Virtua Fighter 2. So that's at least another 500,000 copies of Virtua Fighter 2, not including the fact that Virtua Fighter 2 did actually sell quite well in other places in the world, not just the USA and Japan. So yeah, long story short, mate, the Sega Saturn sales figures are fraught with issues, not including certain hardware types. And when you look at the software attach rate compared to what they report as consoles sold, it doesn't tally up. I think it's definitely sold well north of 10 million. I would say that it's sold more than the Wii U's 13 and a half, but I don't think it's quite at the 17 million that you do see quoted somewhere. But yeah,
aye, I think somewhere in between. I think around about maybe 14, 15 might
yeah.
be kind of top end, but I maybe I was talking about kind of sales numbers and stuff like that. I was like, there's no way they've captured all these variants,
No.
and in the days you say they're all the same console. You don't just discount them because of who made them. It's like, well, we don't like that company, so doesn't
No.
matter that it plays the same games. It's the same. Well, what was the kind of the I don't want to kind of give too many spoilers away for that Master System video, but I think it's coming out before this, isn't it? So
It's got to be up
which is
before this show.
phenomenal, by the way.
Thank you.
I said I watched it on the actually watched it on the TV because it was like 25 minutes long. I was like, nah, I'm not watching this on a phone or a computer. I'm putting this on the TV, and it was superb. But like the tech toy variants, like the Master System 3 and all that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
like the ones that were bundled with like God knows how many games built in and stuff like that. Doesn't matter that they changed the shell and they put a different name on it, and it wasn't like an official release. They are Sega's official distributor in Brazil, so it's an official product, so it counts.
Yeah.
It's a sale of that particular console, so you can't just discount it because it's not a current, modern system. It's still being sold at retail in that country.
Yeah, it's like Sega still get kickbacks from Tectoy for Master
imagine,
Systems.
imagine Utsumi sitting there like that, looking through the year end. Persona, Virtua Fighter 5, Revo, Cross Worlds, Master System.
Yeah, and I think they sell something like 300,000 a year. So it's not like going to be, and they're only going to get like the license to change from that, aren't they? So it's going to be like, yeah, we're getting millions from Sonic Crossworlds, we're getting millions from Shinobi Art of Vengeance. It's going to be like, oh, we're getting 10,000 yen from Master Systems
I think
in Brazil.
thing is, 300,000 units, right, a year. Like, I love the fact that there's still people that are in Brazil picking these systems up. Like, I wonder what kind of demographic are buying them. You know, is it people for their kids' first system, or is it just like, I don't know. Like, I'm just trying to think of the kind of the case for
I
buying
honestly
one of
think
them.
it is. I honestly think it is kids mostly because it's a very affordable
It's a
system.
brilliant first
Um,
system.
Especially now because obviously, if we get into kind of modern gaming, um, PlayStation and Xbox have put their prices up worldwide.
Mm.
PlayStation especially is kind of persona non grata in Brazil because they don't have on-site, they don't have native kind of factories. They don't assemble PlayStations in Brazil, so when they import them, they have to pay a lot of tax. So
Oh,
they're massively overpriced compared to Xbox that are manufactured in Brazil. I can't remember if Nintendo do, but you look at all the consoles and they're well overpriced for Brazil, where the cost of living and the average wage is vastly different. And for people buying a first console, what are their options really? You've got 20 years of Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. Most of those consoles, if you want to get an old 360, you're going to need to connect to the internet where the store's shut down.
right,
Same
exactly.
with the PS3. So what do you do? You find a console that's a fraction of the price, has 174 built-in games, and plugs straight in. And if you these consoles are readily available on store shelves in toy shops, as far as I understand. And yeah, it's easy. It's like buying someone a one of these mini consoles.
So I was thinking, mate, could Tectoy not just like shrink something, like put it in a Master System 1 style shell and just sell their own Master System Mini? You've already built all the games in, so just
Yeah, just put an HDMI connector on there and
that's it.
give it back to Sega and sell it worldwide. I'd buy one
Right.
because they still use RF out. They
Jeez, man. See, I love that shit. See the fact that there's just like still countries that are embracing older technology, and whether it's for kind of like infrastructure reasons or technological reasons, whatever. But you know, I just think that's brilliant that there's still people who are embracing that system in 2025.
yeah
300,000 units a year isn't bad going.
no no, it's what I say at the end of that Master System video. No, it's still 40 million shy of the NES, but on a long enough timeline, it'll get
It'll
there.
get it'll get there. I will be long gone, mate. Maybe they'll be like the Sega guys, like reincarnated through different hosts and whatnot through the years. Maybe like our grandkids or something will eventually take up the mantle. And just to go back to this classic from 2025, whenever our grandparents or our great grandparents were talking about it, well, the Master System got there, guys. It's finally past the NES.
Yeah, well, they'll probably they'll
If
probably
only they could see it now. If only they were here to see it.
probably make us an AI or something. Generate the Sega guys in AI.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. But yeah, it's amazing that it's still sold there, and yeah, the guys at Tectoy did some brilliant stuff there. Street Fighter 2 port, a little bit janky, but the fact that they brought so many games over like that, well, Mortal Kombat 3, the port itself isn't their fault because Probe did that, and it's not that great on a Game Gear to start with. But bringing games like Sonic Blast, Sonic Drift to a degree, I don't think it actually got a commercial release, but I think it's in one of the compilations. So yeah, big shout out to Tectoy because they did some absolutely brilliant stuff over there. They really did.
Yeah.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
but
so just to go
yeah,
back
go
to
on.
Street Fighter 2, because also in that video, I referred to Street Fighter 2 as a bootleg, which kind of got me some flack. So I wasn't aware of the apparent interview where the someone from Capcom apparently came over and presented or was presented this demo of Street Fighter 2, and he was handed Mega Drive controllers, and he was led to believe it was a Mega Drive version. And he was surprised whenever it was revealed it was actually the Master System running it. and that's how he greenlit the release. Now, the only reason why I didn't kind of buy that is because Street Fighter 2 had already come out on the Mega Drive years previously in Brazil and worldwide. So I kind of didn't quite grasp why someone from Capcom would believe they were playing a Mega Drive version of a game that they'd already released on the Mega Drive years previous. So yeah, but it's technically, well, Tectoy did request permission from Sega to publish it and were denied despite providing the demos. Apparently, Capcom did give their blessing to it, so it's not actually a bootleg. It is an official release because of Tectoy's relationship with Sega. So, yes, I stand corrected. I apologise to our Brazilian viewers for calling it a bootleg. And yeah, I suppose the video has got like 36,000 views or something. So I was like, why did that one have to take off? It's like,
I,
it's like,
I was under the same understanding because point a finger at Sega Retro because Sega Retro.
it's their fucking fault, by the way. It's because, like,
They're usually
I
great,
did,
by the way. They're amazing.
I
Sega
know
Retro are amazing, but
that's my go-to source because, like, Wikipedia dates and release dates, they always differ to Sega Retro. Sega Retro have always got like magazines, like clippings and adverts and
oh, it's
artwork and
amazing.
documentation and everything you could want for researching. Apart from he's hung out to dry with Street Fighter 2 in the Master System because I got abuse, man, for calling it a bootleg. But no, it is an official release because of Tectoy's relationship with Sega, and Capcom did give them the blessing to publish it. So, yes, apologies to our, because our Brazilian viewership, we do have Brazil's our third highest after US and UK. Brazil is where our third largest audience comes from. So, yeah, I meant no offense by calling Street Fighter 2 by Tectoy on the Master System a bootleg. I know how much Tectoy means to the Brazilian audience. So, yeah, they do great work, and it's great to see that Master System is still being supported both officially over there and by homebrew developers worldwide.
Yeah, I made the same mistake in my top 10 Master System Fighters video. I thought it was unlicensed because the story was that Sega and Capcom said no, and Tectoy said we're going to do it anyway. I didn't know that Capcom had licensed it, and obviously Sega didn't need to give their blessing, to be honest, because the licensing agreement was already there.
It was already in place, yeah. They're the official distributor, so like by that rationale, they had permission to release it anyway. So thanks, Sega Retro. Thanks for that.
But there we go. Yeah, well, both consoles did get releases up until 97, 98. Some great games on there, mate. Especially late in the day. The Virtua Fighter port is I'm quite a bit of a fan of it as well myself. The Virtua Fighter, the animation. I don't know how much you played with that.
I've played it on Everdrive. I actually had a wee go at it not too long ago. It's not bad. It's a bit kind of narrative heavy. There's
Yeah,
that
it
kind
is.
of
It's
like
based on the anime.
conversational. Aye, but it looks decent. It's not bad at all.
Plays well. I think it plays better than the Mega Drive version.
I was
It's
going
not.
to,
It
I was
doesn't
going
feel
to
as
say
stiff.
that. No, the Mega Drive version's awful, man. It's like, don't know what they were thinking about that. It's just no need. You had your 32X version of Virtua Fighter 1. That was enough. Just it was kind
Could
of
have at
like
least
it
stuck
was.
an SVP in there and done it proper.
Well, that would have been interesting.
Yeah. But mate, I think we've been talking about the history of these consoles, their accessories, their commercial performance. Got on our soapbox a couple of times about batteries and Wikipedia and stuff. But let's talk about some games. And I think maybe do a top five each. But you're the Game Gear guy because obviously you got the Game Gear. Game Gear was your first Sega console, wasn't it? Back in the
Yep,
day,
yep.
after being denied the Mega Drive for the Atari ST, denied again when you got an Atari Lynx. You finally,
Fucking Lynx, man. Lynx 2 with the Batman Returns pack. I'll never forget my uncle's face when he noticed the abject disappointment on his ungrateful bastard of a nephew's face. Did you know you were getting it? I knew I was getting a handheld. I thought I'd made it abundantly clear I wanted a Game Gear. Hold on till I go and play Blue Lightning and Gates of Zendikon instead of Sonic. You bastard. It's like, like the guy in Shawshank stood in the rain asking why.
Yeah.
Like, nah, man. Just. But I got there eventually, mate, and I like the Game Gear was just had a vibe about it. It just that Sega feel just it came through from the off, man. It was just such a different feel to the Lynx. Like the Lynx had this weird. It just like I'm trying to think the best way to describe it. It was impressive, but it just felt quite stale. Like the games felt quite empty. Like they were missing something. Like you could like Blue Lightning and Gates of Zendikon, California games, even Batman Returns. They were visually very good games. Like even like is it Rygar Gauntlet? I had to turn the links on its side to play it. They were brilliant looking games. Road Blasters as well. Again, but they just felt they didn't feel like they felt that handheld games, especially to put it, they didn't feel like console games. And also with the Game Gear being that, it just felt like a step up.
Yeah.
So
But I think, yeah, sorry, if I was just to interject,
no, it's fine.
my feeling on the links is that because it wasn't actually a Atari were a mess anyway, weren't they, at the time? And they had been
Mm.
absolutely dissected, and they weren't kind of scattered to the winds like they are now. I think that they're publishing Bubsy 4 at the moment is a big thing, Atari, which is too weird. But anyway, what I was going to say is the Lynx was not developed by Atari, was it? It was developed by, I can't remember who it was, but some company developed the hardware and the schematics and the prototypes and everything, and Atari actually bought it from them. And I think that's how Sega almost became involved in it. Um,
Ah, right.
but but no, but Atari themselves, as a publishing house and as a hardware provider, didn't have that much of an influence over the hardware or the software that came on it. So it doesn't feel like it's the Lynx is a very impressive bit of kit, but I feel like what you're saying is it lacks personality, whereas the Game Gear really is that early 90s braggadocious Sega, isn't it? It is Sega through and through. And I think that's what you're saying, isn't it?
Aye, it's like it's in Pulp Fiction. Game Gear got personality. Personality goes a long way. It's like it's like it's it's just got so much personality. The Game Gear and the Lynx was just devoid of it. I say the Lynx definitely felt like they were still handheld games. You could feel the limitations, whereas like when you're playing Game Gear, it was like, oh, these are like full blooded games. These feel like games you would play on the TV because they were
Yeah.
basically, you know. So that's a difference.
Yeah. The Game Gear was basically filled with Sega arcade games and Sega Master System games. You know, ports of Outrun, Space Harrier, G-Lock, and then you had Master System ports of Sonic and everything. Whereas obviously the Lynx had some arcade ports, but they weren't. Sega were handling their own arcade ports, whereas
Mm.
for the Lynx they were obviously handled by third parties, usually licensed, probably picked up by people like US Gold and Ocean and stuff.
US Gold, the bane of my childhood.
Other than that, they were going to be developed strictly for the hardware, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you want games that take advantage of the hardware that they're being built for. But by the same token, you don't get the feeling that the game is bigger than the platform. It's just very much that self-contained experience.
Aye, at no point playing the Lynx did I ever think like this is no right to be running on this. That's the difference. Like even today, I'm playing Game Gear games thanks to the EverDrive that like I'd never had a chance to play. And I'm like, how good is this? Like this
Yeah,
shouldn't be on a handheld. It's just like from that era. It's just no that it's the saying in the video. It has no right to look this good.
yeah. Well, you know what they say, mate? To be this good takes ages.
That's it, mate.
So, I mean, if we're talking about games, because I've got my 5 games from a Master System perspective, and you go do your 5 from a Game Gear perspective. So at number 5 for me is Castle of Illusion, and I think there'll probably be some crossover here because some of the Game Gear games will probably be. This is obviously on both platforms, almost identical on
Possibly,
both.
I've got I think I've got one or two that I don't think you'll mention, so we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I've got I've got out of all of these, one, two, three are on the Game Gear. But not sure how likely it'll be that they'll be in your list. But yeah, Castle of Illusion. I think that the 8-bit version is actually superior to the 16-bit version. There's a lot more charm to it. I much prefer kind of that retro Mickey Mouse, you know, where he hasn't got the whites of the eyes. He's just got the just kind of the black circles with the
Hmm.
bit cut out of them. There's just something kind of super retro about that look, I think. And I think that as a whole, the Castle Illusion Master System and Game Gear version is just kind of better designed. Plus, you have the option of you when you start off, you can actually choose which door you go into. In the Mega Drive version, you automatically run to the first door, open it up, peek in, go in. But on the Master System, you walk in, and the Game Gear that is, you've got 3 doors, and you can choose which door you want to go in first. You know, if you know the levels, you go into the Toyland first rather than the woods. You pick up the star at the top of the secret area, so then you've got 4 stars when you battle the forest boss rather than battling with 3, which will leave you at a handicap. Yeah, and as a result, I think it's such a great game. You know, there's so many memories I ever playing that. The the stage design really does stick in the mind, probably more than the Mega Drive one. The way that you jump into the teacup and you're swimming around trying to avoid the possessed sugar cubes and go fighting the cogs in the clock tower. I think it's absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, Castle of Illusion is probably my number 5 favorite Master System game. And probably people might note that it's probably this is going to be different to my um, Master System games you should play first. I didn't even mention Castle of Illusion, and that's because I try to only have a couple of platformers. So that'll probably tell you that there are quite a lot of platformers in this top 5 as well. So yeah, Castle of Illusion at number 5, mate. I don't know if you want to choose your number 5 Game Gear game now. We'll go over to Game Gear.
I mean, I'm trying to think, like ranking them. Like I've got games, but I'm trying to think of where to rank them because like it's quite difficult. I don't want to put one last because they're all absolute belters. I mean, it would be unfair to put any of them as kind of last. So I'm actually going to say that my list, I'll leave my number one game, right? I've definitely got a number one, but the other 4 are interchangeable. So I'll just start off,
Yeah.
right? Desert Strike.
Yes. That's a
Again, it's no right to be that good. It's honestly, it just captures all the vibe and the look and the sound of the 16-bit version. It's absolutely brilliant. It's like it's got the depth of the 16-bit version, the mission layout, choose your co-pilots, you bring your map up, you can target your airfields, you can target the power stations, pick up the prisoners of war, you can find your weapon crates, your fuel crates. Everything about it is just even the handling as well. The helicopter you can turn on like turn momentum on and off. So there's nothing better than Desert Strike, right? If flying full pelt towards like a kind of missile launcher, smacking a Hydra off it, but just letting go of the D-pad to just let the chopper come to this beautiful little stop just before it, and its nose tilts back. You just fire the Hydras off, boom, gone, and then while the chopper still got momentum, you put your finger back on the D-pad. It's like Airwolf vibes, mate. It's giving Airwolf vibes. Whenever I'm playing Desert Strike, I'm still hearing the Airwolf theme. But no, it's phenomenal. It really is. It's absolutely brilliant. And again, just the wee kind of brilliant like gameplay mechanics of like hovering over the POWs and the crates and whatnot, and the wee hook of the ladder comes down, picks it up and takes it back into the
yeah.
chopper. It's got everything in there that the 16-bit version's got. So, Desert Strike, mate. Still playing it on the EverDrive today. I had it back in the day as well. Brilliant game.
Yeah, I got 100% agree that it has no right to be that good because it really does feel like the Mega Drive version in the palm of your hand. Like it does exist on the Master System as well. The Master System version it's a pretty good port. I think it's Domark that did the Master System Game Gear ports.
Yeah, aye,
I think the
that's
I think the yeah. So Master System port, I think, suffers a little bit for 2 reasons. One, the reduced amount of color on screen, and also the lack of a start button. because obviously you have to lean over and hit your pause button in order to bring up
Aye.
certain bits of the menu. Whereas the Game Gear one just feels purely self-contained. You're only losing one button compared to the Mega Drive, and yeah, it just feels like the full Desert Strike experience just in the palm of your hands. It's absolutely
Aye.
fantastic. That's a superb shout, mate. Number four for me would be Asterix. So this is a Master System only one. As a kid, I used to really enjoy the kind of the animated movies, and we used to get the graphic novels from the local library, and then we saw the game. My brother got the game with his Master System, one of the first games that he got it day one. When I say day one, he got my Asterix the day he got his Master System. Not he got it on the day of release, but yeah, just another really good platformer. Alternating characters who play differently. So you've got Asterix, who's smaller and punches things. You've got Obelix, who's massive and can kind of crush things with his head and his ass and just sit on things. As a result, they actually get slightly different levels in some cases. Sometimes they go through the same levels, and their difference is their abilities. You can play it co-op as well. Obviously, taking turns a lot like kind of Super Mario Brothers. But yeah, there's a lot in there. The levels are varied. You go all over the world. Each stage has kind of different gimmicks and stuff. You kind of like some stages are like auto-scrolling ones. You just got to get to the end. Other ones are more free roaming. There's one where you have to kind of travel underground to get into this pantheon. I think it's in Greece, and you bounce on this thing to get up into the air to get a key off a bird. So it's a little bit kind of convoluted like that. But yeah, and in the end you're in kind of a chariot, in Rome. So it's a really, really great game. The controls are really tight. The level design is absolutely fantastic. Fantastic soundtrack, and it's one of these games that I think visually is kind of on a par for stuff that you'd see on some 16-bit games. The sprites are really well defined. There's loads of colour, loads of background detail, really good animation. It's an absolutely phenomenal Master System game. I'm actually not sure if it actually came out anywhere other than Europe. It would have come to kind of South America and Australia, but I don't think it came to the US or Japan, which is a shame. I think that if it didn't, then they're deprived of an absolutely sensational Master System game.
Aye.
I don't know if you played that one, mate.
Aye. That's what I think off the back of your recommendation as well. Whenever I got the other drive, I put it on, and it's literally obviously kind of duller in terms of colour, but in terms of the visual style and the way the characters look, it literally looks like it's ripped off the comic, the animation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's beautifully done. Looks absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, just checked. It only came out in Europe and Australia and Brazil. Never came to Japan or the US.
So,
Which, yeah,
basically,
you just got a feel for those American Master System gamers. They've really missed out.
Did indeed, mate.
It is. What's the next one you want to shout out for the Game Gear then, mate?
I'm going to go with Road Rash.
Oh, yes.
I was literally playing it yesterday, and the tunes in my head for the do 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 do. Brilliant. Again, it runs a bit slower than the 16-bit versions, but again, the way it looks, it's unmistakably, it's got the exact same HUD and UI as the Mega Drive version. And I think the reason why, again, I had this one back in the day as well, but the reason why I think this one's a bit special is because, again, I always wanted to play Road Rash. And I remember the hype around Road Rash on the Mega Drive and no getting to play it because I never got a Mega Drive. But the Game Gear version is, again, no right to look as good as it does. It's the stages, they all transfer over brilliantly. The rider, the bike that you're on as a player, nigh on identical. The way it looks, it's got all the same gameplay mechanics. You can, drive by people, energy bar comes up, poof, smack. Traffic oncoming, dodge it. Hazards on the road, everything's in there. It's just a phenomenal port. Again, as I said, it is slower in terms of its scrolling, which some might think it's kind of detrimental, but actually on the smaller screen it helps. And I don't even know if if the choice to make it that bit slower is either technical or from a gameplay perspective, because I don't know if it going too fast on a smaller screen, maybe you might miss punching people, or you
Yeah.
might not have the reaction time for the traffic and the hazards. So I don't know. It might be a combination of both, rather than being completely one or the other. But no, it just plays absolutely superb. It's the best race. I've got it in the racing genre for my video because it's as technically a racing game. You're racing and punching, kicking the shit out of people. But is it a racing beat 'em up? Is it its own genre? But no, as a racer, it holds its own. The handling on it is great as well. The controls are fantastic. So Road Rash, mate. And I just looked up there on CEX, a boxed copy of Road Rash for Game Gear is £50.
Oh, I thought it would be more.
50 quid, mate. And we slagged off US Gold, but they were the publisher for that
Were
one.
they?
Yeah.
I wonder who developed that port.
It's got Electronic Arts on the box art with US Gold's logo as well. So,
wonder if US Gold ported. Well, credit to US Gold if they did develop that port, because it is absolutely phenomenal. This one, my sister did have on her Game Gear back in the day, and for me it was again just like playing the Mega Drive version in handheld form. I know you talk about the speed difference. I didn't notice one back in the day. I've played the Master System version since, but I haven't played the Game Gear version for a while. And I think, from memory, I didn't notice any speed difference. And the reason why is I think it probably isn't that much slower than the PAL version, because obviously all the Road Rash games I played at that point were all PAL.
right.
So it probably, from an STC perspective, it probably does feel a little bit slower, but at 50 hertz, it felt absolutely fine. The fact that the scrolling's all there and the kind of the undulations of the terrain, all the bikers are there. You've got the kind of the population of sprites on screen. It's just that, again, like Desert Strike, it's the complete experience that you'd have on the 16-bit platform. The Master System version, again, also absolutely fantastic, but I think it's another one that I think really thrives on the smaller screen. Being able to take that game anywhere. It's not like on the Master System you're playing kind of a scaled down version of a game that you could also play at home with less colour. On the Game Gear, you are getting basically the benefits is being able to take it anywhere, and as a result, not only do you get the benefit of the start button does go a long way as well on the Game Gear, being able to take it anywhere, and also the extra colour, just all like little benefits to that sort of game. So yeah, again, fantastic port, mate. I mean, in my Mega Drive Play These First video, I said that Road Rash 2 is the best super scaler on the Mega Drive, and I think that's probably true of Road Rash 1 at least on the Game Gear, possibly. And Master System has some fantastic super scaler ports. The Mega Drive kind of, for some reason, suffers in that respect, but yeah, it's another game probably in there with a great shout for being the best of its kind on Game Gear too, mate.
Nah, brilliant. Love it.
Number 3 for me is a video that just went out, which no one really cared about too much, but Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. This one,
absolutely criminal, by the way. It was a cracking video of that.
it is what it is, but no, it was it's a childhood favourite, and this is one that we didn't own, but my brother's friend had a Master System. He had a Master System 1, we had a Master System 2, and he had Alex Kidd in Shinobi World. And I can't remember what game we gave in return, but yeah, we were obviously, as you do as kids, swap games, and yeah, even as a kid, managed to beat this one fairly easily. Alex Kidd in the Miracle World is sometimes a horrible game with how unfair it is. You have to memorise the stone, scissors, paper routines of the bosses. You have to you have to make sure that you've got enough money to get the bike over some or the other vehicles to get through some bits. You have to remember the puzzle at the end, the solution to that, otherwise you die and it's straight back to the title screen. It's an arsehole game sometimes, Alex Kidd in the Miracle World. It feels unfair, for all the grief that people give Shinobi for being tough, or gave for Art of Vengeance for not being as tough. The Shinobi games are hard, but they weren't anywhere near as hard as Alex Kidd in the Miracle World, in my opinion. which is quite funny because out of both of those rock hard series, you get Alex Kidd and Shinobi World, which you can breeze through in 25 minutes. But as I say, mate, those 25 minutes are pure bliss. An absolute belter of a game that, as I say, it's another one that looks like it could be on a 16-bit platform. Absolutely gorgeous visuals, fantastic sound effects, really charming, perfect little parody of Alex Kidd and Shinobi. Plays supremely well. It's kind of that perfect 25 minutes, and then unfortunately it's over. But it's like one of those things, mate. It's like the fact that I watch Transformers the movie at least once a year for not 90 minutes. You know, just one of those things where it's just sheer joy to experience it from start to finish.
Mate, I watch Transformers the movie about 6 times a year because I only watch the first 25 minutes. I watch up until Prime. One shall stand, one shall fall. And then that's it. Prime wins. Roll the credits. I will not witness death. So there you go.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, it's just that kind of that perfect kind of palate cleanser. One of the best games on the Master System, hands down. It's a shame it didn't get a Game Gear port. Really odd that it didn't, to be honest, because I think it could have really shone on the portable. But there you go. What's the next game you want to shout out, mate?
Next one for me, mate, is I'm jumping around genres here, and I'm going to go for again another one which replicates 16-bit and also comes across from the Amiga. Lemmings. Absolutely phenomenal version of Lemmings. Again, the Game Gear's colour palette does a great job of really bringing the kind of the greens and the browns, the kind of richness of the colour. All the level designs are there. All the little kind of variants of Lemmings, your diggers, your blockers, your climbers, everything's in there. Password system for whenever you get past a stage so you can, continue where you left off. Loved it on the Amiga. Also, you used a mouse with your cursor, even though you're using the D-pad and the little kind of square selector, which is really generous in size as well, but doesn't get in the way of the gameplay, which is brilliant. I think the pace that the Lemmings walk at, now, if I remember the settings, I think you can change the tempo of them. I know in the game itself there's a plus and a minus that you can click on to make them speed up, but the kind of default speed, it's absolutely perfect for A, the size of the screen, and B, to allow you to scroll, move the kind of the selector, the cursor off either side of the screen to see what's happening. Absolutely brilliant. It's just, again, no right to look that good. It plays and looks, despite the limitations in terms of the controls, for a D-pad and 2 buttons, it works phenomenal. Even as this is for somebody who played that to death on the Amiga, like, I didn't feel as if I was like really like compromised in terms of playing it. It was still really enjoyable.
Yeah, it's one I've got on the Game Gear, and it's I love Lemmings, and I love the Sega versions of Lemmings, because I think purists will say you have to play these games with a mouse. You can't play them with a D-pad, but that's how I cut my teeth with Lemmings, was on the Mega Drive. And that still remains my favourite version of Lemmings, the original one on the Mega Drive. I love the way that the synth music on there, but the Game Gear version is as a portable version. It's absolutely fantastic. Again, everything I kind of said for Desert Strike and Road Rash kind of applies, because again, it's you can get it on the Master System, and they're both by. Who does the port? I think it's Pro who does the port of Lemmings for the 8 bits, and it's mostly the same experience as the Game Gear. But again, it's something about playing it on portable. It's just it feels like I feel like it's actually one of those scenarios where the smaller resolution on the Game Gear is actually to a benefit, because I feel like you have more control over what you're moving your cursor around on screen compared to the Master System, and it feels a little bit more responsive on Game Gear as a result. I think, people may disagree with me, but
no, again, I didn't feel. I mean, I'll. You said that the Mega Drive is your favourite way to play Lemmings. Well, my favourite way will always be the Amiga, but again, it's one of those things where there's those kind of crossover games. like your Bitmap Brothers games, like your Chaos Engines, Sensible Software, like Sensible Soccer and Cannon Fodder. Like, I'll always say, though, I think those games, they look and play better on the Amiga, but if you play the Mega Drive version, you're not getting a bad version, just it's
Yeah.
slightly different. And to bring those games and their controls over to, especially the mouse based ones like Lemmings, over to a D-pad, and for you not to lose that feel, to not feel like you're constricted. So like, I remember back in the day, like when I had the Amiga version and hearing that it was on like a controller, and I was, even back then, I was like, how would that work? Because like you're that used to having a mouse flying a cursor about in later levels in Lemmings, you really need to move about quite quickly to get to pick them and blow these ones up and block that one and climb that wall and dig through there. And it's like it can be chaotic. But I think on the smaller screen with the Game Gear, the way it works, you're not having to move the cursor the full width of a TV kind of thing. You've got
Mm.
and because the selector, the square is a decent size in comparison, it, again, doesn't get in the way, but it's a decent enough size. So I didn't feel like I was constricted at all in playing it. And again, it just looks
Yeah.
absolutely stunning. It's and that when I was picking these, that's what I was trying to do. See, you've kind of hit the nail on the head as well. That they're like they're self-limiting. They're within their own kind of bubble. They're not like they exist as their own kind of versions of the games that are almost identical in terms of look and feel to the 16-bit versions, which is what I was kind of going for. Trying when I was picking these is that there's no real compromises to them, despite being on 8-bit, despite being on a handheld. That so far, Desert Strike, Road Rash, and Lemmings hold their own, mate. They're phenomenal versions.
Yeah, they are, especially when you look at other portable versions of those games that came to other platforms. These are almost as close as you can get to the kind of the full 16-bit experience. So, yeah, we need a new Lemmings, Nate. Or no, we're never going to get one, are we? Because obviously, they're Psygnosis. Psygnosis published it, didn't they? It was DMA
Yeah.
Design, Rockstar North now that created it. But obviously, Sony bought Psygnosis. We got Lemmings 3D, which was, and
That
and that
was
was and that was
shite.
that. And then I got the port. I got the PC version that came out around 2005, six, and I got the PSP port, obviously because Sony own the Lemmings IP now. Um, but yeah,
Let's go.
They were an absolute phenomenon back in
Oh,
1991.
mate, you always feel sorry because like, is it the second? Is it the second level? Is it the first level? No, the first level's it's only
Just
blockers.
dig.
I no, I just dig, and then the second level's the blockers, and it's the wee kind of like platforms that are staggered, and you've got
Yeah.
things. Is it 5 or 6 you need to use, and then you got all your wee guys that go into the wee kind of portal and they're all safe. You've got the wee guys left. You just got to nuke them. Oh no!
Oh no! Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I remember it was like that realization as a kid. So I think yeah, because you do blockers, then you do floaters, and then you do no, you do just dig floaters, then blockers. And I think it's that third level. It's just like, oh, by the way, you're gonna have to kill some of these guys.
Aye, because the level won't end until there's no lemmings left. Got these poor wee buggers that you've got to sacrifice to get to the next level. Man, you had some guilt there, didn't you?
Yeah, it's like imprinting the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few onto young minds.
Oh man,
No
poor
sacrifice,
wee.
no victory.
with, with great power comes great responsibility, Peter. I'd have killed those 5 blockers.
You got those flashbacks of killing them.
That's that, mate. Waking up middle of the night.
Oh no! Oh, right. Next one I've got is Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap, which shouldn't need any introduction. Best in the series by a long shot. Even though I've got a real soft spot for Wonder Boy and Monster World on the Mega Drive, Wonder Boy 3 just has a bit of everything. Has the opening, following straight on from Wonder Boy Monster Land, the arcade game and Master System game. Kill the dragon, get turned into a lizard, and then you basically have to travel around, turning into other creatures, all with different abilities and powers, leveling up, finding new hearts, buy new equipment and all that sort of lovely stuff. It's just so perfectly paced. Fantastic soundtrack, amazing visuals, and I think this is another one that didn't come out in Japan, though it did come out in the US. But yeah, I think it's hands down one of the best games on the Master System, and I think it's kind of unanimously held up as such. Did get a port to the PC Engine, but under a different name. I can't remember what it's called. Can't remember if it was Adventure Island or Dynastic Hero or something. And then got a remake by Lizard Cube a few years back. It's the cell shaded look, which some people get quite hostile about. But yeah, I think it kind of suits that one. And as an experience, it's pretty good on the PC. But I think playing it on the Master System, there's just something special about it. And it's one, I only finished it for the first time a little while back, not that long ago, and it's just an absolutely magical experience. Really holds up today. So definitely without a doubt, one of the best games on the Master System for me.
Don't mate.
What about yourself, mate? What's the next one for you?
Now, our last two is where I think we might have some crossover. I'm not sure because you've got one left, haven't you?
We've got one left. You probably know what it is.
Well, for my number two, I'm not sure. I've got Streets of Rage 2. That's my number two. Again, anyone expecting an 8-bit version of Streets of Rage 2 to mimic the Mega Drive version, it was never going to happen in terms of visuals. But what it does in the kind of Game Gear / Master System visual style, it scales Streets of Rage 2 all the way back and still somehow manages to, everything about it is just recognisable. Yeah, you lose one of the characters, but the level design is it's nigh on identical. The bits that you expect to happen in the Mega Drive version, they translate over onto the Game Gear, and the 8-bit version, obviously Master System, it transfers over brilliantly. Like, second part of the stage, first stage, you go into the wee kind of bar, smash up the tables, you get Electra coming over with an electric whip.
Yeah.
All the bosses are in there. By and large, it is pretty much the same game. I think the waves of enemies are slightly different in pattern. There's not as many varied enemy types, although I think there's three. There's the wee guy with the blue kind of jacket. There's the yellow jacket ones who are a pain in the arse because they always slide towards you as you jump. Because I try and jump in the air to take them out, but they always slide and catch you on the way down. Pains in the arse, man. And you get the kind of I call them the Vin Diesel guys.
Yeah.
So that's your kind of three main enemy types in it. But it's absolutely brilliant. The music is sensational. Yuzo Koshiro doing his bit. But Streets of Rage 2, man, it's again, that's no right to look as good as it does. It captures everything, the feel of the Mega Drive game, and even though it's so much more simplified visually, it still just captures the vibe. Like the first Streets of Rage is really, really, I don't like the first Streets of Rage on Game Gear. I think it's too basic, but Streets of Rage 2 is just fucking phenomenal. Love it.
Yeah, I think it's quite interesting because the Streets of Rage games on Game Gear and Master System are quite different. They used to share a lot of the assets, but they played quite differently. But yeah, I think Streets of Rage 1 has sprites that look a lot more like the Mega Drive game. But I think in both versions don't play quite as well. Whereas Streets of Rage 2, the graphics are massively, like the sprites are a lot smaller.
Yes.
But you get everything that you got in the Mega Drive game. It plays more like the Mega Drive game. You got your attacks and your special moves and everything like that. All pretty much behave exactly as they do in the Mega Drive game. So yeah, again, having that game and a portable is phenomenal. And yeah, to be honest, it's probably the best handheld beat 'em up there is, because I don't think there's any that are anywhere near as good.
No. I mean, in my Game Gear video, Streets of Rage 2 is mentioned, the runner-up or kind of honourable mention in that category for beat-em-ups is Battletoads.
Yeah.
Which is, again, looks really, really nice. Kind of was a more kind of quirky comedy style kind of beat 'em up compared to Streets of Rage 2, but it's everything about the Mega Drive version just somehow scales back nicely. As I said, the levels, the bosses, they're all so recognisable. Like, if you've been used to playing it on a Mega Drive, there'll be wee bits in it that you'll see and you'll just go, you're just gonna smile away because you'll instantly recognise it. So nah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It's brilliant. I think the 8-bit ports of Streets of Rage games are better than they have any right to be. And Streets of Rage 2 to retain all the kind of the content and the move lists and everything from the original are amazing, mate. Okay, last game that I'm going to mention then, obviously my favourite 8-bit game on either system is obviously Sonic the Hedgehog, the very first one. Shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone. It was probably this game that made me fall head over heels in love with Sega. When my uncle bought it, we'd been playing Master System all morning on my brother's birthday. And my aunties and uncles had bought various games, like I think the Ninja and stuff, like I think Space Harrier still had the sticker on it, and it was like $9.99. So obviously these were games that were probably quite cheap at the time. But then my uncle came in, because he was always kind of spoiling us, came in with the brand new Sonic the Hedgehog, which had just come out, and plugging that in was transformative. Obviously the Mega Drive version had been around for a bit, but the sheer speed that it moved at, the way that it managed to pull that across from the Mega Drive, retain that movement and that versatility, was absolutely mind-blowing. I hadn't even seen the Mega Drive version at that point. It was just like, what is this amazing new game that I'm playing here? It's unlike anything I'd ever played before, the way it moved, the way it played. But if I look back on it, compare with modern eyes, I do still prefer it to the Mega Drive version. I'm not sure if it is just nostalgia, but I think the Mega Drive version, it's like people like to look back at stuff and criticise these days. And some criticisms are I know Sega Lord X has always had long-standing issues with the pacing of the game, which are very legitimate, I think, because obviously you go from the wide open Green Hill Zone to the very slow, sedate Marble Zone afterwards, and it breaks the pacing up. So you've got that criticism there, which I kind of agree with, and that kind of goes away for the Master System game, because it's the Green Hill Zone moves to the Bridge Zone, to the Jungle Zone. You've got those three kind of open green zones, and you move into the still quite, by comparison, still speedy, but the Labyrinth, Scrap Brain, and Airbase Zone at the end are all is that delineation, and a much more better paced, I think, better than the Mega Drive game. And the soundtrack, again, by Yuzo Koshiro, whether it's adapting the Mega Drive tunes or creating the new ones, absolutely phenomenal. For me, it's almost as perfect as you can get an 8-bit video game to be, better than anything else. So yeah, that's my favourite game, mate. As I say, shouldn't be a surprise to anyone.
Yeah, that's why that framed case up there above your head. Yes, that's almost 2 years ago, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it will be.
That's scary. Just if you're talking about that, I loaded it up. So that's the Master System version.
Oh, right, on the Master System version on the Game Gear.
Yeah. Sonic has a nose, thankfully, on this version. But it's funny, that's my first experience of playing Sonic, or my first experience of owning Sonic was the Game Gear version. So I got Sonic 1 and 2 with my Game Gear in a bundle. And it's a brilliant version. See, it does a lot different for the Mega Drive version to kind of stand alone as its own game. As much as we laugh about whenever you get the invincibility and then you get the speed boots and you just basically can fly through that down the ramp and right over and running over spikes and gaps without even noticing. But the level design is so well suited, especially again with the handheld version. It's different enough that it makes it its own standalone game. You can play it separate to the Mega Drive version and get a completely different experience. I think, well, there isn't a lot of elements. There's loads of elements of speed in them in the Game Gear and Master System versions, but I think more so in the Game Gear version because of the smaller screen. Like, it lends itself more to platforming and exploration than it does to just speeding through it.
Yeah.
Like, especially the second zone. If you go down and you've got to kind of wee kind of water and you run through it, you feel it's a pure slog, and like you've got to try and build up enough speed to get a spin dash for the wee crabs, because if you jump, there's spikes above you, so you want to lose your rings. It's a pain in the arse. And like, you know yourself, you can go around, so there's no actual special stages, so you've got to find the Chaos Emeralds in the levels as well, which kind of adds a whole different dynamic to it as well. So no, it's a great version. Got a lot of affinity for it. The Game Gear version, as I say, because it was my first the first Sonic I owned.
Yeah, and the thing is, it does feel like it was really honed for each system. I know it's, as I said in the comparison video that I did earlier this year, you know, people collectively call it Sonic 8-bit, but the levels differ drastically, and that's because they spent the time to really suit the level design for each platform. That's why they're so different, even though they look the same, and that's why they play so well. You know, even though Sonic's missing a nose on the Game Gear, you know, or I think it's there. I think it's just squished into his eyeball.
Hey, it's as if he's ran into a wall or something. It's like, you know, it was actually good loading the Game Gear, the Master System version up in the Game Gear. Then, oh look, you can see his nose on that screen. They just did something to the sprite. I wonder if somebody could hack the Game Gear version and put the Master System version in. Bit pointless if you could just play the Master System version on the Game Gear anyway. So,
well, the one of the early promo versions of the Game Gear version actually had the Master System sprite.
I mind that. Aye. So why did they change it?
Yeah,
interesting design choice, Sega.
It is indeed, mate. What was your number one for the Game Gear?
Well, my number one should come as no surprise as well, because you've maybe noticed it's been absent so far. It is RoboCop versus the Terminator. What a game. What a game. Even the box that it comes in is just elite level stuff. This jet black box. Like, it didn't have any intrusive, like, Game Gear, like, branding on it. Like, nothing down the side, just a little logo down there. There's a little logo at the top and the bottom. But it's just jet black with the RoboCop versus Terminator logo in both characters, front and centre. Just, best box art on Game Gear by far. It's just phenomenal. But as a game, again, it's doesn't feel like any compromises to the 16-bit version. Scales everything back down. You know, all the kind of the levels, the same kind of goals that you've got in each one. Whether it's, you know, rescuing the hostages after you get the kind of training mission at the start. You've got the streets of Detroit where you've got to rescue the hostages. Next stage, you're taking out the security cameras. You fight Kane. Like, even in the Game Gear, Kane is terrifying. He's just quite an imposing looking sprite compared to RoboCop, but there's some elements of sprite flickering. Whenever you fight the first T-800s on the first level, whenever you start off, he's obviously got his kind of leather jacket, and you knock him down once, then the exoskeleton appears, and then whenever you blow him up, it flickers a wee bit. But, you know, by and large, the level design is all there. Like, the levels are massive, like, not just, you know, horizontally but vertically as well. A lot of kind of backtracking and platforming and rope traversing, you know, just various weapons. All the weapons are in it, whether it's your rocket launcher, laser, your standard, you know, Auto 9. Absolutely brilliant. And RoboCop sprite, man, he just looks so good. Like, just walks about, and all the wee little details, even for an 8-bit version, like his visor and the circles on his arms and his waist and his thighs and stuff. The way he walks with the Auto 9, just perfectly, you know, brilliant. That hand up and the gun out, just, absolutely brilliant. The gores in it as well. Enemies explode with that satisfying squelch. You know, the only one little thing about it is also, again, because and it is the one thing that kind of plagues certain Game Gear games is because of the with the screen, is that like another great example of a game that looks phenomenal, but because of the way they've scaled it, it doesn't quite work. Is Zool, right? Zool on Game Gear looks amazing, such a good looking game. It's hellish to play because it's zoomed in that much.
Yeah.
Like the character is massive. Like enemies are like you're running full pelt and you've no time to react to an enemy being on screen. And sometimes with Robocop versus Terminator, it's like you'll just see little bullets coming, and sometimes you'll have to like you can either jump to try and see what's there, or else push up and maybe try and get some of the bit to come down to see what's above you. And it's just muscle memory. You just with the level design, you remember where they are and just angle your auto 9. If you're hanging from a rope or a ladder, you can just angle down and take them out. But no, it's everything in there, like all the enemy types. The wee guys that stick their gun out the window and you've got to time it right to shoot them, and the wee gun just goes flies away. You know, it's brilliant. It just captures the vibe of the 16-bit game perfectly. Captures the vibe of the Frank Miller comics phenomenally. It's dark, it's gritty, it's violent, it's Robocop. I'll give any excuse to talk about Robocop. Robocop Transformers and Sega. Never change, James, never change. It's like...
Yeah, amazing that they got the gore and stuff in there when they didn't have it in any of the Nintendo versions.
Aye. Nintendo, the SNES version is just... It's a completely different game. It's nowhere near as gritty. The thing is with it, the SNES version sticks closer to the story of the comic. It's got like cutscenes and stuff like that in it that actually replicate the story of the comic. Whereas the Game Gear version's got a slight little tangent on the storyline, slightly different. But I think that works to its benefit because, like, I don't want to sit and like watch like cutscenes of like comic, like, kind of fake comic book strips. Like, just let me go and shoot things as Robocop. That's all, you know. But nah, it's a brilliant version, and you know, I think we've got footage that will be running of these games anyway for folk to see how good they look. So it's, again, finish off. It has no right to look as good as it does, or play as good as it does. It's a marvel that we got these full-blown console games, you know, on a handheld. You know, so I think that's what Desert Strike, Road Rash, Lemmings, Streets of Rage 2, Robocop versus Terminator. 5 completely different games, but all of them which deliver a near 16-bit level of gameplay experience on the go, on the toilet, on the bus, wherever you want to go. Do not endorse taking your Game Gear to the toilet, but whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, and you know, and you can still do that with your Game Gear today. You know, as well you're shown with your recapped and refreshed Game Gear that you've got there, mate. So I need to get mine sorted, but I think that brings us nicely to the end, mate. So we've got 10 8-bit games. You know, some commonality between the systems, between those, but what a pair of absolutely amazing Sega consoles, mate. Just a little bit underrepresented, I think, underappreciated by the wider community, I think, and hopefully we've made their case now for the fact that these are two very important machines that really did make their mark on the industry.
No, definitely, mate. It's just, as we've said before, it's great that we see Master System still being sold, you know, in Brazil, still being supported by Homebrew. Game Gear is being kept alive by a variety of mods, people recapping them, new soundboards, new power boards, new screens. You know, it just has to happen. It's just as these machines are getting 40 and 35 years old, mate. You know, it's just scary. I mean, scary for me that I'm significantly older than both of them still. It's like, you know, I was 11 when, well, 10 about to turn 11 when Game Gear came out. Jesus. Scary, man. But I was, 5 about to turn 6 whenever Master System came out. So, okay, mate. See, I need maintenance like these need maintenance. That's the difference. Like their capacitors leak, my knees creak. So, you know, that's it.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah, it does make us feel old. But yeah, viewers, listeners, love to hear what you think, what your memories are of these two incredible machines, two Sega stalwarts pre Mega Drive. That well, one pre Mega Drive, one just post Mega Drive, but all three kind of ran concurrently for a while, especially in Europe and Brazil. But what an amazing time it was to have those around, and to have those in their heyday. Yourself, James, with the Game Gear, myself with the Master System. So what are your thoughts, memories? What are your favourite games? Let us know in the comments below or on the Sega Guys Discord. If you've enjoyed the video, give us a like and subscribe, as that really helps the channel. Or if you want to be extra mega, you can become a Sega Guys YouTube member, which gives you a host of exclusive content and other bonuses. It starts from as little as 99p, and the top tier gives you early access to all videos, some bonus content, and allows you to get your name read out, just as James is about to right now.
Certainly, our Akira All Access members for today's show, we have G-Man, Stiff Peaks, Mikowski, Craig Williamson, Resident SD, P-Wall, Peter 007, Andy Mackey, Nick Tullock, Greg Matthews, Tom Thumb, Kaiju Leviathan, Nelson Serino, and David Owens. So thank you very much to all our members and subscribers for your continued support. This year has absolutely flown in. We're heading towards Halloween at the time of recording this. We're halfway through October almost. Well, getting there. Well, a week away from halfway through October, but crazy to think another year is kind of almost by. And just thank you very much for all your continued support.
Yes, thank you very much. So, yeah, hope you've enjoyed this one. Stay Sega, and until next time, we will see you on the Sega side.
Sega!